Hey guys, it is Nick here with another Nick's Topics Walking Dead What If topic video for today, and I am really excited to this particular What If today concerning one character that was in the psychotic red and possibly could have been given a different approach with her psychotic nature had a certain someone not done the job and killed her off. Who am I talking about, you might ask? If you haven't already read the title, I'm talking about what if Carol didn't kill Lizzie. Or rather, what if Lizzie was left behind instead of killed? This would play into The Walking Dead a very considerable amount, and could possibly look at Lizzie, meaning a certain group in The Walking Dead that would fit her more psychotic nature toward the zombies. But I'll be discussing several scenarios before then that people might be thinking about beforehand. So, without further ado, let's get into the topic, shall we? Now, we open up with Lizzie killing Mika and getting ready to kill baby Judith because of her psychotic nature and wanting her sister to basically be like the zombies, because, you know, Lizzie was like that, and she viewed the zombies as people that were basically Herschel before he truly knew the truth about the zombies, except times 1,000. She wanted others to be like the zombies, which is why she killed Mika. Now, we know in the original continuity, Carol and Tyrese showed up just before Lizzie was about to kill baby Judith. Thank God. That would have made me hate her character twice more. Anyway, in the original continuity, Carol kills Lizzie away from, basically making it seem like she wasn't going to kill her and that they were just taking a walk and Lizzie was crying up a storm, and yeah, basically everything that went down in the original, but this time, some things will change a little bit. Now, I warn you guys, this is going to be a little bit dark regarding the character of Carol, but hey, we all know what she did to Karen and David and a lot, so I don't think you guys are really going to be affected by this, but instead of killing her, we're going to take a sort of Rick didn't kill Shane approach to this. This is no means going to have any sort of similar side effects to that story. No siree. That would be lame. What we're going to do is, let's say, instead of killing Lizzie, Carol takes a dark approach towards her. Sort of like she did against Sam, the little boy from Alexandria, and basically threatened his life for good cause, because, you know, Carol's character, and she was just warning Sam and everything else, but she takes a dark approach, basically saying to Lizzie that if she ever returns, she will be killed. She will have no remorse, and everyone will be told of what she's done. Now, I know, for a grown lady to be telling a young little girl like this something to that nature, that would be pretty dark. But let's think about this for a second. First off, think about Carol's character. How dark she turned out after Ed died. It was bad at some levels, almost getting her killed against Alpha. And, of course, I made the what if concerning that. And just everything she's done throughout the series, turning her from someone, like Merle said, afraid of her own shadow, into a bloodthirsty killer. Almost. She wasn't completely fond of murder. But anyway, also think about how she talked to Sim, like I said. Just how her character was written at a dark point. So, seeing her say something like this to Lizzie, and we all know how crazy Lizzie is, So saying this to someone like Lizzie, although it would make the young girl very sad, and, like, possibly with a little bit of murderous intent, on one level, this could spite Lizzie to try and just attack Carol and her kill her on the spot and nothing changed at all. But, on the other hand, that would just be boring. But it could happen. Like I said, before I discuss a truly great scenario for this particular character, I'm going to go through small scenarios to discuss some things that are obvious to what people think could happen, instead of something truly out of this world. Or not out of this world at all. And that's one of the scenarios. Lizzie possibly getting mad at this sort of talk from Carol and going up and just killing her. Because after all, she did point a gun at Tyrese and Carol when they tried to attack her. Or at least, you know, pretty much attack and kill her at the spot. But that is just one way that things could have gone down had Carol took this approach instead of killing her. On the other hand, or on just another hand, Lizzie being left behind, with her psychotic nature and loving of the zombies, or I'm sorry, walkers, I'm never saying that name because it's dumb. Anyway, with her nature towards them, she would honestly want to be like them and possibly let herself die in this regard, letting herself ultimately become a zombie. But before we get into what truly could have happened, let's discuss what's going on with Rick's group. And by discuss what's going on, I mean that literally outside of Carol maybe telling him that she left Lizzie behind and telling everyone the truth maybe about everything, Terminus and really the rest of Rick's group, nothing would change. Now you guys might be asking, if there are scenarios where Lizzie just ultimately isn't relevant if she gets left behind, then why is she part of this what if? Why are you making a longer video than there needs to be? Well, I'll explain. Because we're going to take a very twisted turn with this story. After a long while of being on her own, Lizzie meets Alpha and the Whisperers. Now you guys are probably like, Nick, why are you going that far? She'd probably die beforehand. You're making all this up on the spot. Like I said, think about this for a second. This is a what if. Anything could happen. In shows and movies, there are infinite possibilities. And this could have been one of them. It probably is one of them. And people have probably discussed this in High Velocity before. Whenever the Whisperers were first introduced, going back to Lizzie's character, she idolized zombies. And seeing Alpha and the Whisperers, this would be like a family that she never had. She would look to Alpha as a role model, and the Whisperers as her true friends. Now, on another hand, people are probably like, oh, the Whisperers skinning the zombies and everything, that would just make Lizzie even more upset and Alpha would just kill her. Well, true. That is very, very true, and I don't disagree with that possibility. But I still think that if this possibility did come to pass, she would look to them as his basic family, like I said. Now, Alpha? She would grow sort of a fonding towards this admiration and not being scared. Although it would take her by surprise, I think that Alpha would also appeal to Lizzie's sort of psychopathic nature as a way of something that Lydia did not possess. And speaking of Lydia, this is going to take an even darker turn. Because of Lizzie's entrance into the Whisperer clan, which would be around possibly season 6, maybe almost 7. I'm thinking it would be around 6. Maybe by the time that Rick and his friends get into Alexandria. Anyway, on to Lydia. With Lizzie being like the daughter that Alpha never had, to a more literal sense than you might think, Lydia would almost be a weakness. Now, this is where I'm just guessing, but I'm guessing that Lizzie around this time would almost be maybe a little bit older than Lizzie, but I'm not going to go into too depth about their ages. But in the future, as Lydia grows up and Lizzie starts to outplace her in every way, shape, and form, Alpha starts to admire her a lot more than she does Lydia, almost completely ignoring Lydia entirely. Lizzie starts to grow more and more admiration, becoming almost the best whisperer at her disposal, not truly having as much chaotic nature, I would think, by her grown-up years, but still keeping her touch about the zombies. And as time goes on, Lydia would almost just be completely killed by Alpha entirely, seeing Lydia as a weakness, nothing more. Soon enough, Lizzie gets her own zombie skin, I was about to say walker, zombie skin and mask, and basically become the greatest asset at Alpha's disposal. This astonishes Alpha. She had never seen anyone this proud to be a whisperer, maybe since Beta. Ever since Lydia agreed to actually be one and, impress her mother. But now, she wasn't worried about Lydia at all. She viewed Lizzie, like I said, the daughter that she never had, out to outpace Lydia's movements and intelligence in every way, shape, and form. If anything, she could even outclass the best whisperers at her disposal. But, in some ways, this could pose a problem. Letting this girl and her psychotic nature get ahead of herself could mean that she would turn traitor and take Alpha's position. On the other hand, Beta is around. Now, does this mean that Alpha would view Lizzie over Beta? Well, I don't think so entirely. But she would almost think of her and Beta on the same level, I would have to say. Now, are we going to have a Lizzie turning over on Alpha thing? I don't really think that would happen. It would be a thought in Alpha's mind, but I don't think it would become that occurrence. But it would concern Beta. Now, you might be asking, where's Rick? Well, as I said, nothing would change outside of the main story for them. Everything would go per normal. Terminus, Claimers, Alexandria, Saviors, Rick blowing up the bridge, everything would happen per normal. Nothing would change. Except Carol would always have the uneasiness of where Lizzie was, knowing that she had let her get away. The group knew of this too, but as time grew on, they placed her out of their minds, almost forgetting about her entirely, until the fated day. The day where Jesus gives an introduction of the Whisperer army. And this time, whenever the Whisperers are on the bridge, Lydia's dead. So the Whisperers that are on the bridge are futile and easily taken care of, at best. There are no Whisperers at the hilltop. Now, why wouldn't Lizzie be a part of this? Because I would view her as able to stay on her side and not want her to immediately get herself killed. Knowing even though that her abilities are far better than they were when she first started, she pretty much viewed Lizzie as a daughter, and she didn't want anything bad to happen to her. This would be a change in character for Alpha. So aside from the Whisperers not being at Hilltop, nothing truly I think would change outside of the main story. Although Henry would still be a thing and still be taught the stick and everything and be relevant, sort of. Not all good things stay good. Meaning, he wouldn't have the relationship with Lydia. And for those of you who think that him and Lizzie would gang up, like I said, Lizzie was never brought to Hilltop, so that exchange was never properly introduced. Now, by the time the Pike scene happens with all the heads, Henry is killed, but not by Alpha. The one to brutally lay out this murder is Lizzie. Why is this, you may ask? Because Lizzie still had memories of Carol, lashing out at her, pretty much ruling out her idea of the zombies, not truly being on her side, calling her out, leaving her behind almost to die. That she still had that idea in her mind and viewed some sort of vengeance towards her. And this was the perfect way. After sooner or later figuring out that Lizzie was alive and that she was responsible for Henry's death, this would completely destroy Carol. Rage that she felt whenever Alpha did it, times that by 1,000. Or worse, the girl that she left behind, the girl that killed Mika, the girl that was about to kill baby Judith, she was back. And she had joined the Whisperers, a group that actually was responsible for the death of her son. And the ringleader was the one she left behind. After soon realizing this, she knows what she has to do. Kill Lizzie no matter what. Daryl, this time, I don't think none of them would really stop her. Because after all of them figuring out from Carol what Lizzie was all about, and that she had been left away after killing her own sister and about to kill baby Judith, they would actually be on her side. But Carol had her own plans to do this deed. She was going to take Lizzie out herself, no matter what it would take. Why would anyone let her go alone? Like I said, don't think anything would really tell her no. What would Alpha do when she would hear about this? Well, I think that Alpha would honestly want to see how much Lizzie has grown up over the years. Instead of betraying her in her mind, this part of her would take over a little. Seeing that Lizzie almost took too much power in the death of Henry. But mainly because she knew the history of Carol and Lizzie, and knew how much this meant for the both of them to just get it done and over with. But to make sure she was the utmost caution. After the long they meet in a big clearing to finally end this. Lizzie, in her zombie skin outfit, giving a long monologue to how she was left behind, how Alpha actually accepted her, and how the Whisperers were her new family, and that killing Henry was to make Carol realize that she made a big mistake, seeing how Carol would react to all this bluster. But Carol is having none of it, and basically gets into a rant about how she should have killed Lizzie herself when she had the chance. And after realizing that that's what her true intent was, this enrages Lizzie. Remember, it's to an epic knife fight. It goes on for some time, both not backing down an inch. But eventually, the battle comes to an end. But one is not so lucky. Although she still had psychopathic nature and she still wanted a little revenge on Carol, some part of Lizzie still respected Carol and viewed her still sort of as an old parent figure whenever they had nowhere else to go. She was taught by gun basics and knife basics by Carol. This played to Carol's advantage immensely. Even though Lizzie was enraged and her zombie whisperer skills had taught her more, and she was definitely combatant worthy for Carol, those feelings held her back. And after Carol gave one last speech about how this could all change, this could be put behind them, they could go back and forget all this ever happened and start over. This played right into Carol's hands, and she took that minute to stab Lizzie straight in the head without her hesitating 1 minute. Carol had finally killed the girl that she had allowed to escape back in Season 5. After that, the Whisperer arc would honestly remain the same. Alpha would be so distraught, and also a bit sort of relieved by Lizzie's passing. Almost missing Lydia a little bit at the same time. But I still think that Negan would join them and everything would go down the same. But Nick, wouldn't this all be happening when Negan joined and Alpha being killed anyway? Well, possibly, or it could happen well before. There were time skips in between. And this battle could have happened right as the winter ended, right when they both found a chance. And to think, all this could have happened had Carol actually left Lizzie instead of killing her. But ultimately killing her in the end because of Lizzie's and Carol's hatred toward each other. And my friends, that's where we leave our story. So what do you guys think? Do you think that Lizzie's character could have taken this approach and actually got revenge against Carol? Or do you think ultimately that this scenario could have never happened? That could all have just been for naught? That's the beauty of a what if. Exploring a character that could have amounted to something, but was ultimately given half or useless potential. Lizzie's character was something to experiment on, especially with the Whisperers when they were first introduced. It was a character that could relate with this sort of group. Someone who would idolize them, and Alpha doing the same for Lizzie. But ultimately, it led to her downfall in the end, for both of them. But my friends, I hope you guys have enjoyed this story. Like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.